Buck, I want to talk about the Canadian truckers here for a moment. CBC News, which is the Canadian Broadcasting Corporation, they have a headline that they put up yesterday. The headline, I'm not making this up. You can go check it out on my Twitter feed right now. This word has become common among far-right groups, experts say. This word, oh my, a lot of you out there thinking, oh my goodness, what could the word be? This word has become common among far-right groups, experts say. The word, freedom.
The F word.
The F word. The new F word in Canada is freedom. Now, some positive news here, and then we're going to unpack Bill Maher just destroying Justin Trudeau. But I saw right before we came on, you were giving us an update on Washington, D.C., Ontario, which I believe, again, my Canadian knowledge is not very good. I apologize to all of our Canadian listeners. I believe Ontario is the most populous of the 13 Canadian provinces.
Look at you with the Canadian provinces flex, Mr.
I could
Travis.
be totally wrong on that. Dub, look that up and see if I'm correct. But Ontario has announced that they are going to be removing many of the restrictions that exist. I am correct on that, all right, that exist in Canada, which is yet another win for these Canadian truckers as they continue to fight for the big F word, freedom.
Before we dive in, I just wanted to go back to the F word, freedom, for a second here, and how the CBC, unironically, is like, there are all these bad people using the freedom word. This is not new. One of the things that the left does very well, and people on the right, because we believe in individual agency and choice and dare I say freedom, we're much less likely to try to police the language that others use. They police language all the time, and they'll even get to extremes where they'll take terms that are entirely innocuous and try to make them problematic, try to make them something. So they'll not only change their language to hide, this is what from a legal alien to a legal immigrant to undocumented, right? I mean, that's one of the most clear examples of this. There are tons of political speech examples. But you remember, Clay, when they were doing the targeting, and this was a real thing, everybody, try to remind folks of this, when the IRS was targeting opponents of the Obama regime, do you know what one of the primary things they looked for when they were doing their, stopping of essentially the Tea Party groups? Patriot. If you had the word patriot anywhere in your nonprofit application, you were getting dinged, you were getting held up, you were getting audited. So patriot became a signifier for bad people. And now in Canada, freedom is becoming, isn't it so fascinating? Freedom is becoming a signifier for bad people. Just like, by the way, anyone who uses the term undermining our democracy ever also puts their pronouns in their email signature and also walks around with 2 masks on outside alone. Like, these things all go together.
Unless they're at the Super Bowl, in which case they don't wear a mask at
Fair
all.
Point.
Bill Maher, did you see also, Buck, by the way, Bill Maher went out, I think it was in San Francisco, to do a comedy routine and got heckled by the crowd because he's willing to challenge prevailing left-wing orthodoxies.
I would just say he's really he's kind of a libertine, if we're going to, he's like a maximum liberty guy on a lot of issues. Not on everything, but on a lot of issues.
Here he is blasting Justin Trudeau. This is from Real Time, whatever that. I think Real Time, right? His show on HBO, blasting Justin Trudeau for sounding like Hitler.
This is a couple of weeks ago. He was, or maybe this is September, but he was talking about people who are not vaccinated. He said they don't believe in science. They're often misogynistic, often racist. No, they're not. He said, but they take up space. And with that, we have to make a choice in terms of a leader as a country. Do we tolerate these people? It's like, tolerate them. Now you do sound like Hitler. And recently he talked about them holding unacceptable views.
Wow. I'm surprised to hear that Trudeau said those things.
You didn't see the blackface? I mean, no, I'm kidding about that. I'm not. That was not a good look for him. But, I mean, come on. I mean, that's, I think, what gets under people's skin.
Can we just, first of all, what he's saying is it's so obviously true that's crazy. And that was Marianne Williamson. Remember when she ran for president?
She's going to run for president again, I think.
I just did Greg Gutfeld's show with her, which was interesting.
Oh, really? She did Fox News. I didn't even know that.
She went in there, and she said She is a nice lady with some loony
Credit to her.
ideas. She's got some loony ideas, but she's a nice lady. And I am cordial to her, and she is cordial to me. And that's
I give her credit for doing Fox News because, look, I mean, it's the biggest audience out there. So
in late night TV, which is, they're crushing the Colbert Show and a lot of nights, a lot of the demo. But Clay, on the point about Trudeau, can we just take a step back from? We had Dr. Marty McCary on the show last week. They've been making people take the shot in this country and in other countries like Canada, irrespective of natural immunity, which means that in millions of cases, they have been forcing people to do something for which there is literally no good faith medical argument whatsoever to do. None. I mean, put aside the individual agency and freedom from vaccine argument as a separate argument. I just mean making people who already had COVID, like making people who just had Omicron get another shot or get a booster, is outrageous.
Yes. No, it is totally crazy, and there's no scientific basis to support it at all, which is why when we're talking about Ontario lifting its restrictions, many of them, and Washington, D.C. doing it as well, starting on March 1st, my question is, how quickly is the idea that you have to show a vaccine passport to, for instance, take your kids to get chicken McNuggets at McDonald's going to vanish? And I say that because for all the people out there who are arguing this is necessary, never in any of our lives have we ever had to show proof of vaccination, to my knowledge, Buck, for anything other than maybe going to school, right, and or maybe going to college. But to enter a business, the idea that you would have to show that you had been vaccinated has never existed. Like that very idea itself, it's radical. And we need to talk about it as being a radical proposition and a personal imposition on so many different people as it pertains to their individual freedoms and their health rights. Like, regardless of what you think about COVID, the idea that you have to show your vaccines to go to McDonald's is crazy.
They've also never wrestled with a concept that I think is really important, and this is where you get into the epidemiology, and I rely on doctors just like you do that I know to bring me up to speed on these things, right? I have no medical training. And I just sit here and I want everyone to understand that when you're talking about measles and mumps and rubella and smallpox and these other vaccination campaigns in the past, those are stable viruses. They do not mutate, and they do not mutate with anywhere near the speed that we've seen with COVID. To try to get to herd immunity for a virus that seems to mutate about at least every 6 months so far, you're going to be playing catch up forever because the last version of the vaccine doesn't protect you from at least getting, it may help your body fight it off, but from getting the most recent variant. So this was wrong-headed from the very beginning. And there's animal reservoirs for this virus too, which means that it can mutate and spread from the animal population to the the human and American population.
We're never going to get rid of it.
Yeah.
Right. And that's why anybody who's trying to compare this to measles or mumps, I mean, it is more akin, frankly, to the flu shot.
Yeah. Have you been saying this for about 18 months? I feel like I've been saying this for about 18 months. And here we are now.
Well, if you ever mention COVID in relationship with the flu, they would censor you back in the day.
They go crazy.
Like the idea that you could even compare the two was completely unacceptable. That's where we are. COVID has become a new flu. And it's never going away. And sooner or later, we have to get used to living with it.